After he resurrected and before he ascended to heaven, Jesus appeared several times to Mary of Magdala, to the women at the empty tomb, to the disciples, and to two men as they were walking on the road to Emmaus. In these apparitions, Jesus walked with them, he talked to them, he ate with them to communicate that he was real, that he was alive, not dead. And so each story is so unique and remarkable. But how can I have proof that Jesus hears me or knows me? Well, let's hear a story of proof found in the Gospel of John, chapter 20. The disciples have gathered after the crucifixion. They gathered in a room in Jerusalem, and there were lots in the room. Jesus comes in the room, although the doors are locked, and he says, "Peace be with you." But there's one person missing. It's Thomas. So later, when the disciples saw Thomas, they said to him, "We have seen the Lord." Do you know what Thomas's response was? He said, "Unless I see the nail prints in his hands, and I touch his wounds, and put my finger in the nail marks, and put my hand in his side, I still will not believe." Well, what proof did Thomas need? He not only wanted to see the nail marks, he wanted to put his finger in his hand, where the nails imprinted his hand. Well, guess what happened 1 week later? The disciples are gathered, and this time Thomas is in the room with the disciples. Jesus appears and says, "Peace be with you." Then he looks at Thomas and tells Thomas, "Thomas, see my hands. Place your finger in the nail mark. Bring your hand to my side, and do not be unbelieving, but believe." And then Thomas responded, "My Lord and my God." Jesus knew what Thomas was thinking. He knew Thomas wasn't present the first time he appeared to the disciples in that room. He knew the doubt that he was experiencing. And yet, he did not reprimand Thomas, nor was he angry. He said, "Peace." And this story tells us that Jesus knows who we are. And this is very important because he sees us and he knows us. In the case of Thomas, as we just heard, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." What a story of proof. But what about us? We may not see Jesus like the disciples did in that room, but we can see him and experience him. We can see him in people that you may know who have a deep faith. Approach them and ask, "How do you sustain your faith and hope?" You can see him in people that you may know have been healed or been impacted because they have encountered Christ. I myself can tell you I'm living proof of Jesus' presence in my life, of his healing touch. He healed me of an incurable disease a few years ago, and my medical doctors can testify that there is no physical or evident medical proof of my healing other than divine intervention. You can read the story we just heard about in the Gospel of John, chapter 20. Place yourself in the room with the disciples. How would you have responded to Jesus? Well, how would you have received the risen Lord? And then spend time with him and talk with him and say, "Jesus, I doubt. I have doubts. Help my unbelief. Jesus, Master, guide me, lead me." This story and the stories of the resurrection tell us of God's mercy, not of his anger, not of his disappointment. The resurrection stories gives us encouragement, gives us consolation, and certainly gives proof of the risen Lord.